Welcome back to Einstein Media Center, your one-stop shop for all unnecessary media dissection. Today we are joined by a very special guest. Thank you to Bryson from the maximalist punk band Topiary Creatures. Bryson, how you doing?
Hi. I'm thrilled to be here. Doing great. Having a good day. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you very much. Why don't you just give us a little bit of background about who you are and who the band Topiary Creatures is? Maybe give, some backstory, how y'all came up to this point in 2025.
Nice. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm Bryson. I'm originally from Florida, but kind of moved all over. Played in tons of different bands that mostly nobody cares about growing up. A lot of stuff at church, a lot of just random rock bands with my brothers and friends. And around later in high school and college, I started producing my own music, and it sort of became like an obsession to do all the parts myself. And I was never really like playing out and about. It was more just like making the songs project for myself. And I've been putting those songs out under various monikers for the last, I don't know, now like decade and a half. And for a long time, it didn't really get much notoriety. But when I was living in San Francisco I think it was 2019, I had this collection of songs, and I was like, dang, like this really feels like the best thing I've ever done. I should like give it a better shot. I should see if it wants to get produced better. And I sent it to one of my favorite producers, Chris Teddy from The World's Beautiful Place. And surprisingly, he was into it. And that was like a huge confidence boost for me. So I went out there and we recorded the first Topiary Creatures album. And when I came back, I was thinking like, oh, well, that's cool. I got these songs that I love, but nothing else will probably come of it. But my buddies who were also I was drumming for this other band, and everyone in that band, they were my friends, and they're like, well, we like the Topiary Creature songs. Let's just we'll just learn the parts and we'll start playing shows. And so we played a few shows in San Francisco. Like this was right before COVID. It was like a horrible time to start a band. But those few shows really gave me the itch to do more with Tope Creach. And when I moved to Nashville, it only really poured fuel on the fire because my longtime best friend since I was like a little kid, Nathaniel, he is the one who peer pressured me to come to Nashville originally. He's the bass player. So that was like part of the reason of moving to Nashville. It's like, we can start a band, we can play so many Topiary Creature shows, we can open a studio, blah, blah, blah. So now that we live closer together, it's been great. And historically, it's mostly just been me doing all the writing and recording, and then I'll have people play with me live. But it's been great because Nathaniel now comes in and adds his sauce on the bass and some guitar parts. And my fiance Elizabeth, who's in the band, she'll throw a saxophone, she'll sing on there, and our good buddy Gibson comes in and plays the drums for our live shows. And it feels way more like a band now it is because it is, but it feels way more like a live real band than I was ever expecting it to. And I was just kind of making stuff in my room. But I guess that's like the SparkNotes version of the Tope Creach origin story.
Nice. So, just to back it up a little bit, you've been doing this a while, and you've also been moving all over the place, it sounds like. What makes this project different than anything else you've done? So, it started out west. Was there anything about the music that you were playing or inspired by while you were living out there, or is this just like a culmination of everything you've been playing all your life? What makes this project different than all of your past ones?
That's a really good question. I think the previous projects that I had honestly were felt similar in a way that it was just me doing all the production to make a song that I wish existed and then putting it out there. But I think something with the Topiary Creatures record, I think the biggest thing is that's when I found emo music and committed to I'm going to learn some tappy guitar stuff. I'm going to make this a bit more gritty than before. I think that was a big step for me. But also I think when I was living in San Francisco, it was the first time I was the music suddenly had bigger stakes emotionally for me, because it was always oh, wouldn't it be cool if it sounded like Ben Folds was in a pop punk band? I'm just going to make that. That's fun. Cool. I call it a day. But with that first Topiary Creatures record, it was I was really not in a great place, and music, I always knew it was my avenue to process stuff, but it was the first time that was oh no, this truly, truly helped me like get out of and understand like a really crazy season of life that I was trying to get out of. So I think it kind of became like way more of a weapon for myself. Like, yeah, for just like emotionally and understanding myself and what I wanted to do and processing stuff. So I think that's just when Topiary Creature started is when the power of that was hitting me. So that I think, yeah, I've never thought of that question before, but I think that's probably the thing that makes this project feel different, or has at least fueled my extra passion for it.
You know, going back to kind of your beginnings as a musician, it sounds like you've been producing for a long time. Like, how did you get into that? Are you self-taught from a production standpoint? You know, just give us a little background there.
Yeah, so self-taught from a production standpoint. I took like very briefly took drum lessons when I was a kid, and same thing with piano lessons. But I was homeschooled, which was the one good thing about that is like if there's something me or my brothers were excelling in, my mom would be like, yeah, do more of that. Like if you have extra time, like she would let us go ahead, which is great. And for me, the things were writing and like music theory. So like in high school, I was like, every music theory class I can find, like please give it to, like I love the nerdy theory side of writing music. So that was really helpful. And then production I'm self-taught. And if you heard honestly, maybe, I don't know if it's 10, but close to 10 albums before Topiary Creature started that I had self-produced, you would understand, because it was so bad at first, and it was like very, very, very gradual steps. And so I'm honestly, even I listen back to our second LP and I'm like, God, I've grown so much as a producer since then. So yes, I'm self-taught with production, and I'm astounded by like, sometimes you'll hear a band in the scene and you're like, these people are in high school. Like, oh my God, I would be so intimidated by them if I was in high school in terms of like production skills. So I'm glad it's easier these days, and I'm glad people are better at it than me. But yeah, music has always kind of been in my orbit because I've got a drum set when I was a kid. That had just been my obsession forever, and then played a lot of music at church, both drums and then piano and singing and stuff. So that was kind of like a sneaky way to learn a lot of chops when I was younger. And then the production thing is the thing that took a lot longer to get where I am now.
Yeah, yeah. And sorry if we're retreading over something you just said.
No, you're good.
For that first Topiary Creatures album, that was you on production, at least in some aspect?
That was Chris Teddy. So
okay.
Yeah, he did like all the production and mixing on that. I came in with like the arrangements, and well, I guess I should say I co-produced it in a way because I did all of the synths and stuff and sent those to him. But in terms of like, oh, I know how to compress a snare drum, I know how to EQ a vocal, that was all him. I went and stayed at his house for 2 weeks, waited like 6 months, and then he basically gave me a fully baked thing. So yeah, when I moved to Nashville was when the second LP, You Can Only Mourn Surprises, it was mostly written, and I was feeling really ambitious. I'm like, I know I just worked with my favorite producer, but like I'm so driven to like do this myself again. Like I feel like I've leveled up. All the money that I'd saved for living with my parents during like some of COVID, I blew on like basically all the equipment in this studio here. I'm like, I'm investing in the gear. I got the nice preamp. I'm going to learn how to do it. And I think it was a huge step up from the last self-produced stuff I did, but I still had a lot to learn. And I think honestly, our third LP is the first one that I'm like, I'll put my name on this. I don't have any caveats. This sounds awesome. Like, so yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, but only like the last 2 or 3 years. And I think I'm good at this, took a while.
Yeah. I mean, I went back and listened to everything. To me, I thought it all sounded really great. I think it's really impressive. Yeah, no, I think it's really impressive that you taught yourself to do all that. I think that's probably very inspiring for a lot of musicians to hear, because it's hard enough to learn instruments and become a good writer, so to speak, but then to self-produce everything, it's a lot to take on yourself. I could imagine probably at points discouraging along the way.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome, especially when like I'm rushing to produce. I get really excited and I'm rushing to like get a drum sound and then I skip something. I skip one of the steps I know I should follow. And then later I hear it and I'm like, oh, that's shitty. I'm the worst. I'm a horrible producer. But I really do think if there are other people who are like you said, if it's encouraging to someone, if there are younger people producing or people that are just getting into producing now, it's so much easier now. Because I started when I was like probably like 15, trying to like learn how to use Logic and GarageBand and all that. And the sounds on there and the presets have just come light years from where they used to be. And also like the auto quantizing stuff, like where was that? That was not around when I was starting. So I sound so old. Yeah, I think I like that it's getting easier for people to get in and, you know, learn to be really good at it really quickly. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you produce as well? I know you're a keyboard guy. We were talking.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've always wanted to. I've never taken the time to like learn, even if it was like making beats on FL Studio. Like I still have like a cracked version of FL Studio on this laptop I'm talking to you through.
Nice.
With like horrendous recordings from like God only knows how long ago, but it's one of those things where to me, like I could play piano okay, I could play guitar okay. I'm a horrendous songwriter. Like that's just something that never clicked for me. So I was like, why would I even bother with the next steps?
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, maybe you've inspired me that, in the next few years, I still got time.
Yeah, I think I don't know, if it's fun, if you can find that moment where you're like giddy to tinker with it, then the rest is history. You'll look up in a few months and be like, wait, I'm kind of good at this.
It sounds like you have kind of I'm going to say more cemented, like actual band with you. It's not a rotating cast of characters. I'm sorry, what was your friend's name that you said played bass?
Oh, Nathaniel.
So Nathaniel, it sounds like he's a little bit involved in the writing. Now, is like your fiance involved with some of the writing? Like, are you bringing in the rest of the band now as well?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the project. When we did a split with some other emo bands online, like Mount Oriander and Hey I Love You and Super Destroyer, and for that one we were like, oh, we're experimenting, we're writing. Gibson, who is our live drummer, I was like, yeah, you play this, like put your spin on it, like, and especially live, like he changes things up. He comes from like a metal background, and I'm like, yes, dude, like throw a breakdown in there, I'll follow you. Like we're very not precious with it live. But yeah, as far as the writing process goes, usually I'll get a song that's like the structure's all there, the synths and the guitars and the drums are all recorded, and then Nathaniel will come in and he'll record stuff. And sometimes it'll make me change stuff a bit. And then Elizabeth, yeah, she was helpful for especially we did a split with our friends in the Low Blow, which is another great Nashville emo band, and she came in and wrote a sax solo, which was awesome. And then I'm slowly coercing her to sing more and more of the Topiary Creature songs. We have a joke, but maybe not joke, of like, I'm eventually just going to transition, like, you can be the lead person and I'll be on this side of the stage just playing 80 different instruments. So yeah, they're getting more and more involved, which is really fun and really different for me. So
that's awesome. I mean, I gotta say, I love like the mixed vocals on some of the songs, and then even seeing the live videos you've posted on Instagram. She has a great voice. I love hearing her sing, especially mixed with the sax. It's a really unique sound for emo that I really just love.
Thank you. Yeah, get more dual vocals and pianos in emo. That's kind of our one of our big missions.
I did not think of this until yesterday, and I don't want to reduce you down to this, but I was like, oh, it's almost kind of like emo Black Country New Road.
You know what? I'm gonna embarrass myself and say I'm not super familiar. I'm looking it up on Spotify right now because I know that I've heard Black Country New Road, but I need to see an album cover. You know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna pretend that I like know Black Country New Road, but I'm gonna listen to this after because you're not the first person I've heard talk about them.
You know what? very great band. And again, I don't want to reduce you guys down to it, but
Oh no, I mean they're a band that like people really like, so I'm honored.
but horns, piano, other weird instruments, and
Oh yeah, their
other people
Spotify
playing.
photo has like an accordion and like some sort of like teardrop shaped string thing. Hell yeah, a flute. Absolutely.
That's all going to be on the next Topiary Creatures record.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, yeah, I'm like working on LP4 right now, and there's a lot of like miscellaneous orchestral stuff in there, and I'm starting to think like, do I need to just like find someone who knows how to play oboe or viola or whatever? So maybe, yeah, hopefully, we'll see.
So before I hit record on this, we were talking about the first band I ever interviewed, Snooze. I know on their most recent LP, they crowdsourced like a lot of people to either sing in the choir or like play a random instrument. You could always crowdsource from your fans.
Yeah, that's true. I really should keep like a running list of it, but I do see people sometimes who are like, oh, I'm like a violin player or whatever, and then they follow us. I'm like, I should be saving those profiles because I need these people to talk to later. I think this next record will probably be more collaborative in that sense. I have a friend who I play in another band here with who shreds a guitar, and there's a few like borderline hardcore songs on the next record, and I'm like, this is just not in my immediate skill set. Like I'm gonna loop these other pals in to come put some riffs on here. So
nice.
It's widening slowly.
So you recently all just put out a new song. Is that something coming from the upcoming LP, or is that just a one-off single? What was that release all about?
Yeah, so that's sort of like, so that's a part of the next release, but I don't want to fool anyone into thinking like, oh, we've got another single coming out soon and then the album will be out, because I have so much to do on it. Like most of the songs are written, but they're not all written, let alone produced. So I've definitely got some more time that I need to work on stuff. But yeah, that song was sort of like it was sort of like the North Star. I feel like every album cycle I'll have a song, I'll be playing with stuff in different sounds and I'll stumble upon a song that I'm like, yep, this is this flavor, this is the thing. Like, and I'll almost like hypothetically pin it up on the top of, I don't know, whatever, the paper, and be like, anything else that I write, I have to compare back to this and be like, is this, does it feel like it could live with this other song that I really like? So yeah, that one was just like, I got so excited about it and I rushed to put it out. So and also we were about to play Coachella, so I was like, we should have something like to promote when we go to Coachella. But yeah, I'd say the next record is like those flavors, but a bit more heavy stuff as well, and a bit more like Botanica, like sound effect sampley stuff in there as well. But yeah, so it's a part of the next album, but it's not marking the rollout of the album, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So when you come up with like these North Star songs per se, is I guess how do you know when you have one of those songs like, oh, this is my offshoot direction for the foreseeable future, and then is releasing it, is that like almost to hold yourself accountable to that sound for the time being?
Yeah, I like that idea of like it's holding myself accountable. I'd never thought of it like that, but totally that's what I'm doing, because if I go to produce a song or like follow an idea while producing, I can always be like, well, would I be proud to put this out after Room 4114? I don't know. I actually did that today. I'm working on a new song that I'm excited about, but I just can't figure out the verse. And I keep starting over because I'm like, I have a standard I'm holding myself to. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely. Sorry, you asked something right before the standard question, and I can't remember what it was.
I guess when you have these, North Star songs.
Oh, right. How do you know?
How do you know? Yeah.
I'd say there are a few things, and I kind of have like a unspoken metric that I hold myself to for any song that makes it on the album, and it's like they have to be like lyrical themes that I come back to over and over and over again. Like things that feel true, not just that day or that week, but it's like, God, I keep really relating to this, and that's like a better chance that I think other people are going to relate to it too. And then it has to be something that's like emotionally engaging for me, in the sense to where, like, if I write a thing on piano and then the very next day I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, I want to remember what that was, I have to hear it, that's a good sign. Like, it has to have that. And it also has to have things that like technically interest me. Like, you'll never hear just like a 1-5-6-4 progression the whole time in a Topiary Creature songs. Like, it has to be something new, like theoretically, whether it's on drums or production. There has to be like, I have to be innovating in some way on every song. And it doesn't mean I have to be like throwing in polyrhythms into every song, but I think those are kind of my three things that I look at. Like, yeah, is it something that I keep coming back to that's relatable? Is it something that emotionally resonates, that like my ears crave? And then is it something that's like intellectually interesting to me? And when all those are like firing on all cylinders, you kind of just get like a hunch for a song. And there was one other song like that that's mostly done that I was like back and forth on, like, should it be this one or should it be that one? But yeah, you kind of just know. For LP2, that was Black Rose Colored Glasses, and then for the first one, it was You Get a Lot Done Without a TV. And I think usually those end up being the ones that that people like the most too.
Nice. So you said something very interesting there, talking about how you like to push yourself from like a more technical point of view, but also write something that your ears crave. I mean, I'm sure you probably like a lot of like incredibly self-indulgent, very technical music. I do too. I like
Black MIDI fans rise up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, how do you reconcile without being too self-indulgent, without being too, for the music nerd, and make sure it's also palatable to somebody who does not care about music theory and maybe cares more about the emotional impact, or can recognize like, oh, that sounds different than a 1-6-4-5, but I don't know why.
I love that question, because this is something Nathaniel and I talk about ad nauseum. Is like, yes, it's really fun to play in wacky time signatures and do this like crazy chord progression, but also like, so I'm saying all this stuff, but it like, my favorite band, like on a knee-jerk reaction, if I'm honest, is Porter Robinson. And that is just pop music, right? Like, he's playing simple chord progressions. He's like getting stuff that people can sing, especially his last album. So it's the impossible Sisyphusian mission of Topiary Creatures is to find the overlap of those two things. And I feel like it's really hard to think of bands that like emulate that do that kind of emulate the result of that mission. I'd say, yeah, I don't know, it's really hard to think of people that do that. And a lot of bands, like, this band does not sound like us at all, but Cassiopeia, I don't know how you say it, but they're like a funk jazz, like, Japanese band from the 80s. And Nathaniel and I are always talking about that too, because it's like, that band is like, it sounds as smooth as like anything you'd hear in a restaurant, but it's cool. But when you stop and listen to the theory and like pick apart what they're doing, you're like, holy shit, that's why it sounds like so different. Is like they're using a tritone there, but they hit it in this way that like is really smooth. And yeah, and that mission makes no sense, right? To be like, I'm gonna mix the most technical stuff with like the most pop melodic sensibilities. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. But when it clicks, it's a lot of throwing combinations of things at the wall and a lot of frustrated, like, screw it, I have to scrap this and start all over. But when it clicks, it's like the most euphoric thing ever.
Yeah, that is really cool. And like, it's funny, probably very niche audience, but like for myself, that was something that drew me to the music. It was like, wow, weird instrumentation, wow, like complex writing, but like a chorus you could sing to, like something that is impactful and resonates. I appreciate the mission, because I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, like part of the thing that drives you is like to continuously innovate, continuously like learn to perfect your craft, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm glad that that's coming across and you're picking up on it without being like, whoa, math rock band alert. You know, like Snakes in the
Nerd.
Walls, I think is kind of a song that emulates that uh like it's maybe our poppiest chorus, but the bridge is like it's syncopated and it changes keys twice in that song, but or actually three times in that song, but I don't think people like it's like a noticeable thing. And that's another song I'm always coming back and holding it to. Like, can you make it that smooth and that sing alongy and poppy and enjoyable while still impressing the music nerd in myself?
Nice. So on this new LP you're writing, you had mentioned that there's a lot more like heavier bits to it. And I felt like there was a lot of at least harsh vocals on the last album. Is there something that's been like personal for you where you've just been getting into heavier music to drive that? Or is it just, again, to try and push yourself a little more?
Yeah, I guess a little bit of all those things. I have been listening, I'd say for the last probably like 4 or 5 years, I've listened to pretty heavy music like Knocked Loose and like Mouth Breather and Chamber and Chat Pile have been like top rotations for me recently. But yeah, it's never been something that like forced its way into the music until recently. I had and I don't know how much they want me to talk about it, but I have a immediate family member who got in like a crazy accident and is like still recovering from it. It's been, and that's what the last single is about too. But it was like it's so much pent up frustration from that like suddenly all the heavy influences were there, and I'm like, oh yep, that's where I go to like scream into the void about this. So yeah, it just like there was never like such a necessity to like make that heavy of music until recently. So, and yeah, and like you said, there are bits of it in the last album, like but yeah, just sprinkled in here or there. And honestly, it's not like half the records are going to be screaming in this new album. It's dialing it up more, which I think isn't like necessarily surprising to anyone, but I think the fun challenge of producing this next album has been that we've got those heavier bits, but I'm also going a lot softer for a lot of parts, like getting very into, like I mentioned, botanica and like sample based stuff and piano stuff. So yeah, it's been a really fun challenge. Like, how do I make all that sound topiary creatures still?
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. Also, shout out to Mouth Breather. Mouth Breather, come on the show.
Hell yeah. Mouth Breathers. So, I don't know. Are they underrated or they're not? I mean, they are underrated no matter how popular they are, but I don't hear people talking about them a ton. And God, their vocalists just, or both of them, but like they've got that trade-off thing going so nicely.
They are legitimately like one of the more almost like frightening bands when you listen to. I think I don't know if it's like that incorporation of like whether it's electronics or just dead space in some of the parts that they write, but it's definitely some of the more like ferocious metal I've heard in recent times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so inspiring to me too. Like it seems like metal heads can kind of go like the fee fi fo fum scary route, or the route that I'm more inspired by, which is like I'm just some dude who's losing his mind right now, screaming, and it's terrifying. And Mouth Breather does that so well.
You started Topiary Creatures out on the West Coast. Now you said you're in Nashville. Can you talk a little bit about the music scene for emo music specifically in Nashville?
Yeah, the Nashville scene has been a dream. Like, I played in a lot of music scenes in Savannah and Florida and San Francisco, and it always takes a while to break into it. People are always standoffy. It honestly is probably what contributed to me being like, I'm not a live show guy, I'm a producer guy. It was just never really welcoming, but Nashville has been the exact opposite. As soon as we moved here, people that we knew on Twitter were like, hey, I'm also in Nashville. Let's play the show. Come see this show. Can I be in your band? Like, do you want to play this show? Do you want to just hang out? Like, people were so nice. And it honestly like healed the musician in me from so many years in the past of being like bullied for the music that we made, because everyone in Nashville is just like, yeah, like this is sick. Like come hang out, come play a show, like no judgment. There's just so much going on too. Like people hear Nashville and they think of like country and pop and Christian radio stuff, and there's pockets for everything if you're looking for it. I think a lot of people are tuned into like Nashville hardcore, which is like really having a moment right now with like Chamber and Orthodox and bands like that. But the DIY like punk and emo scene is really popping off too. It's great because we have one of my good buddies who I play in another like prog rock band with. He owns a shop that's like a Magic the Gathering D&D shop, but in the back it's a venue too. So it's kind of it's called the Arcane Workshop. It's kind of become like home base for the scene, and it's just the most immaculate vibe. Honestly, I could hype up the Nashville scene for a long time, and there's just like a lot of cool music coming out of it right now. Like the Low Blow is doing killer stuff. Who I mentioned, Boy Clothes and 95 Corolla. OK Koala is doing killer stuff. Yeah, there's just so much to be inspired by around here. So yeah, I'll keep myself from ranting about the scene too much, but it's genuinely fantastic.
That's awesome. That's really great to hear. It's so important to be able to form those connections and play the live shows and get hours under on the stage under your belt. That's awesome that you have a place to do it. I didn't expect you to say that Nashville was popping like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, because most people come to Nashville and it's like, I think you hear the musician's equivalent of like moving to LA and wanting to be an actor and then getting super depressed and then moving back home or picking a different career path. And that for sure that is happening if you're hanging out in, like certain circles of people who are just doing the writers rounds and like trying to impress label people or get in the right rooms, as they say. But all the people that we play shows with, they're like, we all have other jobs. Most of them just like, like whatever jobs they can get to like allow them to play music as much as they can. And yeah, no one's trying to get famous off it. They're just doing it out of like a compulsive passion to like make stuff with their friends. So that takes a lot of like the pretension out of it. And I think is what allows the scene to be what it is.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
So you have your home base in Nashville. I know when you and I were talking a little bit, you guys were playing a few shows around. You've been touring a little bit. Do you have any more like tours or big shows coming up? Anything like that going on?
Nothing on the books right now because we're taking most of the rest of the year off to work on the new album. And then Elizabeth and I are getting married at the beginning of November. So going to plan that. Very excited for that.
Congrats.
But yeah, thank you. Yeah, nothing planned for the rest of the year intentionally, which honestly we might cave if the right opportunity. Like we played with Michael Sarah Palin at the East Room last week, and I was like, we're not going to do any shows after Coachella. And then they hit me up. I was like, oh shit, that'd be so sick. We got to do that. So cool. Yeah, I might be lying, but I think we're taking the rest of the year off to plan and finish songs. But gosh, there's so many places. Yeah, so many places we want to tour, and we definitely intend to get on the road again, at least for some like weekenders here and there. Because as we've done little runs, it's become easier and easier, and we see more people and more people ask us to come play there. So we're thankful for that, and we don't take that for granted. So yeah.
Are you usually in, I guess, the southeast area, or are you guys make it up to anywhere else when you do some of these shows?
Yeah, mostly little like Midwest and Southeast things. The biggest one we did, we went up through Pennsylvania and New York and then down through like the Carolinas and Florida. But yeah, that was the biggest one we've done. Would love to get out to Texas and the West Coast at some point. But yeah, mostly just stuff around here. We play Ohio a lot. Like we've had a lot of Ohio shows, which is great because Ohio is kind of the best. Yeah, lots of other places we want to go.
Where I'm not even from Ohio, but I know like Columbus and has a crazy scene there. I'm sure the other two big cities there do too. But is that kind of where you've been playing?
Yeah, Columbus is where we played the most. Yeah, and it's like, so we were supposed to go play this festival in Columbus last year, that didn't work out because of some random personal stuff. But like, there's a band called The Cure for Love that puts it on, and we couldn't make it, and they were so kind. They're like, well, that's all good. We'll just book you another show. Just say the word. On your way to Coachella, you've got a show in Columbus. And we didn't have to lift a finger, and it was Cure for Love, Manor Gates, who rips, and Palette Knife, who also rips. Like, and then us. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so just like what did I do to deserve to get on this bill, let alone someone like help book it for us? And then people drove from super far for that show, because some people like couldn't get tickets to Coachella because it sold out so much. So people being like, yeah, like road trip however many hours, heading back tonight just to see the show was like super humbling. And like, yeah, it just seems like the scene there is really great. And yeah, shout out Columbus.
That's really special. It's you know, what you were saying before, how everybody just does it because they're so passionate about it. Like, it's really what it's all about, is helping other people get on and, you know, playing music together. That's great.
Yeah, it's so wholesome. I don't know if there's a more wholesome scene than like the fifth wave emo DIY stuff. So
yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Happy to be a part of it.
Gotta ask, there's a song on your first album called, well, what I assume it's called is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
It sure is, yeah.
So got to talk a little bit about Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. I assume that's probably your favorite Tony Hawk game.
Yeah, and well, maybe by default because it's the one that I played the most growing up. I was a GameCube kid for sure. It's funny, that song has nothing to do, and that's not surprising for an emo band, like has nothing to do with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, but I was calling it the Foundry for a while because it was like, there's a line about finding like foundries of like, I don't know, energy or resilience or I don't know. Honestly, it's probably one of the songs in our catalog that I listened to back on the least for whatever reason. Nothing against that song, but I was calling it the Foundry for the longest time, and I was like, it doesn't sound cool, so I'm just gonna call it Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 because the Foundry was the first level on that game. So yeah, I'm glad you picked that up. Not a lot of people call that out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I am obsessed with Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Like, I still probably play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 and Underground once a year each.
Heck yeah.
So I'm very excited for the 3+4 remaster.
Oh, I'm so pumped too. It was that really funny timing because I've been on a kick of getting all my old GameCube games that I used to have, and I just got 3. And then they announced, of course, that they're putting out the remake. But heck, I'm gonna get that too if I can play it on Switch. It's gonna be better.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Can you I mean, I know for me, Tony Hawk Pro Skater was a very formative part of my musical taste. Is there any songs, whether it's from 3 or a different one, that like really stick out to you that, you know, made you or helped develop your love of music?
Oh yes, this is where I wish I still knew how to play the CKY riff, because that song was so big. And then what was Body Jar had a song on Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 that was huge too. I was like, or huge for me. It's like not even really a popular song, but yeah, gosh, like skateboarding and skateboarding culture and music was incredibly inspirational. Especially because like I grew up in like, my parents weren't like sheltering, but we were like a Christian household. So most of the music, like the most heavy stuff you'd get naturally that came through our doors was like Switchfoot or Align K. So, you know, getting that soundtrack was like so exciting. And especially the songs you're like, I shouldn't be listening to this right now. It just made it, yeah, even more inspiring.
That's awesome. So, you know, I know you're kind of taking the rest of the year off. You got album you're hopefully, what we say, is releasing next year.
I'd say that's safe. Yeah.
Okay. You have any like plans for what your rollout is potentially going to look like? Anything charted out so far?
I think obviously we want to do at least a long weekender when the songs come out. I have a lot of things swirling around. Nothing that I want to like commit to being like, here's the plan, but a lot of visual like language things and a lot of sounds. And I actually think I already have the album cover, which is crazy because I usually agonize over album covers and like repaint and redraw and reillustrate things a million times. But I think, yeah, we have a bunch of photos, like film photos that Elizabeth and I took on our trip last year where we got engaged. And that's also where I wrote a lot of the songs. So like there's some really cool film stuff from that I'm excited to like, I think that's what's going to be the album and single covers. So I'm excited to like figure out what the rest of the videos and the like hopefully make a music video and stuff. And yeah, I probably shouldn't say too much because I don't know for sure yet. But there's some things cooking that I'm excited to keep exploring.
Nice. So I only have a few more questions left, but you just kind of reminded me of something. Are you the one that does all of your album covers?
Mostly, yeah. LP2, You Can Only Mourn Surprises, that was drawn by a friend of mine from school. But the first album and the third album, those were me. Yeah.
Nice.
So
Wow.
yeah, I've got the painting of the metaphysical tech support hotline up in the room upstairs. Very, very proud of that one. I was like, I knew what I wanted it to be, and I was like, this is so specific. I can't commission anyone to do this because it's so specific. So it took me so long because I know how to paint. I went to art school, but I hadn't painted in so long to where I was like, I'm gonna set aside like weeks to finish this thing.
So is that something you think you're going to keep up with, is continue to be doing your own album covers? I think that's like a really interesting personal touch you got going on.
Yeah, I think so. I think more than I am a musician, I am just a creator who likes to like build worlds and like control the flavor of like everything associated with it. So like, you know, when we get into even things like the little inserts for the vinyl or like merch or music videos or like canvas things for Spotify, like every bit of it, I'm like, this is just as exciting as making the songs for me. I know a lot of people are like, oh shit, we gotta like get someone to do art. Like that's never been like a drag for me. I just anything creative that's associated with the band, or really with anything in general, I get so excited for. So yeah, I would guess unless there's like a piece of work or an album that requires a really, really specific style that I can't do, I'll probably just keep doing it myself because it's so fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Two more questions. My first one is, let's say, album comes out, you have the chance to put together your dream tour. What are like 2 or 3 other bands that you'd want to be on tour with?
Oh wow, what an interesting question. Like realistic or unrealistic?
I kind of want to hear both. So
okay,
let's do both realistic and unrealistic.
I think realistic if I'm like being ambitious. Actually, no, I don't even know if I want to say ambitious because like we played some bands about the size, but like I'd love to play with The World Is because I love like their stuff and obviously we've worked together. And then also Emperor X. He's a hero of mine and is also like DIY touring, and I feel like that's bound to happen. So yeah, The World Is and Emperor X would be like absolute dream tour. That feels like it maybe could be in reality if I was picking. I didn't have an answer for when I was thinking unrealistic too, but I always love the idea of like shocking people. Like I'd love to play with like a really heavy band I love and then a really synthy band I love. Like this is not feasible, but something that's to the vibe of like Chat Pile and Anna Managuchi and us. You know what I mean? Like I love when there's a show where people are like, what the hell is going on here? So but yeah, I think realistically, yeah, Emperor X and The World Is probably the answer.
Nice. And honestly, I feel like Anna Managuchi, like that could happen.
That too. Yeah. They're actually they're getting more adjacent to the emo world because their new album, I don't know if you saw, it's like they recorded it in the American Football House and they like are kind of a rock band. I mean, they always sort of were, but they're like actually a rock band now. So yeah, I love everything they do. I still have yet to see them live. They're like my only favorite band I've not seen live, but would love to play with them. That'd be sick.
Yeah, nice. We'll speak it into existence. I'm gonna say, 5 years from now, it's happening.
I'm gonna manifest it too. I like that plan.
Nice. And then my last question, I always like to ask about the local cuisine of wherever the band resides. So I'll give you a pick if you want to stick with Nashville, let's do it. But like, if I were to come to your city, what is like one restaurant, one meal, one whatever it is, what would I have to get?
Oh, it's a great question. So I I know Nashville's known for like hot chicken, and I like hot chicken. Hot chicken's great. But there's a place called SS Guy that is Thai fried chicken that is probably my favorite meal, period, maybe. And it's walkable from my house, which is dangerous, but it's a little hole in the wall place. Yeah, like in your scenario, if you come to Nashville, we'll probably hang here. I'll cook something from the garden. Also, feel free to come to Nashville and we'll do this. And then we'll walk to the Wash, which is this like old car wash turned like food hall thing. And they've got SS Guy, that Thai fried chicken place that's unbelievable. And then right next to it is this like quesadilla place called Suiza, and that's Elizabeth's favorite. So it's also amazing. So like we find ourselves at the Wash all the time. That's usually where I'll tell people if they want to come visit East Nashville.
Thank you so much for joining. This was a ton of fun. You're a great guest. I know you said you don't necessarily have too much going on for the rest of the year, but is there anything you'd like to shill to the audience at this time?
What do I want to shill to the audience / the internet echo chamber? Yeah, I mean, listen to our new song. Check in on your friends, especially your trans friends and gay friends and friends of color and different backgrounds. It's a weird country to be in right now, but we got to stick together. It's kind of the only thing we can do. And yeah, I think that's it. Stay tuned. I say that I'm going to be going away to work on an album for a while, but I get really productive when I get in ADHD mode. So it might be sooner than I think. Who knows?
Awesome. And that was probably the nicest feeling anybody has ever done on the channel. So
oh, thank you.
Probably you.
Yeah, always got to say it. Check in on your friends.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you again. Appreciate you joining.
Of course, man. This was a blast.
Whatever. I did not plug in my webcam. Shout out Bryson. Thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with me. That was a ton of fun. I love Topiary creatures. Emo is such a big part of my musical consumption, and so is like annoying, self-indulgent math rock and prog metal and whatever. So like talking to somebody who has like such similar music taste is always so fun, and he's such a nice dude, really great guy and incredibly talented, and that's awesome. It's just so inspiring talking to such talented, such incredible people. If you are like trying to get into making music, like he's great, perfect inspiration. The do-it-yourself work ethic is awesome to see. It's so alive and well, and so is the emo music scene. So shout out again. Thank you, Bryson. Really appreciate you stopping by. If you made it this far, and this is your first time here, who should I interview next? If you're in a band, if you're an artist, hit me up. If you have somebody in mind, hit me up. DMs, email, etc. This is so in the way, whatever. That's it. Okay. Bye.